Good morning, everyone. Cheryl Elisa for Urban Akron. Today we'll be interviewing Russel Neal Jr., who is looking to be re-elected for City Council Ward 4. Today's show is being sponsored by Tracy Lynn Jewelry, Holly Randall Consultant, and we'll be interviewing Russel Neal Jr. right after this commercial break.
Gateway Healthcare Services is a certified and accredited home health agency owned by Dennis and Tracy Cox. We provide skilled nursing, psych nursing, physical, speech, and occupational therapy, as well as home health aides and homemaker services, and medical social services. We can train your family members to become paid caregivers under some of our programs. Gateway Healthcare Services is located in Akron and Columbus. We accept Medicare, Medicaid, Passport, private insurance, self-pay, as well as all waiver programs. To contact us, call 1-877-505-4337. 1-877-505-4337. Gateway Healthcare Services.
Good morning, Russel. How are you?
Good morning, Cheryl.
First of all, thank you for granting us this interview early this morning. I know you're probably very busy, but let's get started. So, you graduated from Buchtel?
Yes.
After Buchtel, you went to
Ohio University.
Okay.
Where I majored in management and marketing.
Okay. And what made you want to study in that field?
My family comes from an entrepreneurial background.
Okay.
Knew I wanted to go into business, and marketing is the creative side of business, so that's why I chose that major.
Okay. So when you were growing up, did you guys discuss like any political things in your household?
Well, I was blessed to be born in the '60s, so I was immersed in the civil rights movement. King, Malcolm. My family was one. I mean, I can remember the Ebony magazine on the table, and so the pictures, the conversation. I went to a church that was a very, I guess you could say, active in the movement type church. Matter of fact, the pastor of my church met Dr. King when he brought him to Akron. So it was just a part of the conversation. My father was involved in the voter registration with one of the older motorcycle groups here called the Zulus.
Okay.
And actually, my father actually ran for Ward 4 back in the 70s, early 70s.
Oh, really?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what was the outcome with him?
He didn't win. There were 3 or 4 candidates that were running, strong candidates.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But that's okay, because that made you, was that one of the reasons why you said?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always seen my father, a lot of people know my father from his real estate involvement. He's been real involved helping people with housing and advocating for more African Americans to get involved in real estate. And so just seeing his activism.
Okay, that pushed you to want to go ahead and run. So this is, you want to be reelected. This is your second. This will be your second.
This would be my 4th term.
Okay, your fourth. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so the first time, like what kind of changes did you want to be seen made?
Well,
when you first started running.
I tell you, what I saw happening, I had always been involved in the community. Matter of fact, the thing that brought me back to Akron, because I was living in Columbus, what brought me back home was just the fact that I wanted to give back. I had read a book by Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah.
And in that book, he talked about those of us that are blessed to have family that pour into us so that we can get an education, but then we leave and go somewhere else rather than come back and pour into our community. So that book led me to come back and pour into the community. And when I got back, I got involved in everything from rites of passage to working with the festival when it was down at Lane Field. Mm-hmm. And then I got involved with my alma mater, Buchtel High School. Founded the Alumni Association with 13 other persons. Okay. And we built that up, gave away $60,000, $70,000 in scholarship, established an endowment fund. But it was when they went to build Buchtel that it really got me involved and wanting to get involved in politics. Because every time we would go to the meeting where decisions were supposed to be made, when we got to the table, we realized that most of those decisions were already made and the community was left out.
Really?
Right.
So the decisions that were made, though, was it for the people? Did you think, or that's something you said,
no, it was,
I want to come and change this?
No, the decisions were made for best for the institution.
Okay.
I mean, most people know the history of Buchtel. Where it's built right now, that's not where the community wanted it.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
The community wanted it built right back where the old building stood. The way they built it now, it pushed all of the students that participate in athletic activities off campus because there's no place for them to practice. If you drive by there right now, the football team has to practice in front of the school, basically the front yard, because they built the present school on the old practice field.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay, because I thought that did they remodel booked over, or are they planning on?
No, they totally built a new school.
Okay.
The students that were supposed to be transported to the old Central Howard, so that they could tear down the old school, they ended up, to save money, keeping them in the old building while they built the new building behind the old school. But that's what led me to get involved, because that's not what the community wanted. But, powers that be chose to do it that way.
Okay. So let me ask you this, and this is just a little off key,
Okay.
but you own Graffiti Print Shop.
Correct. Uh-huh.
And you've been in business for how long with that?
Little over 25 years.
Really?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, goodness. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have supported you guys in the
Thanks.
past.
I got to give credit to one of my best friends, Richard Decatur. He and I started the business together. He's now, though, a lieutenant in the police department.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay, but is he still active in graffiti print?
No, some things came up where he had to make a different decision.
Okay.
And so he's very successful in the police department, and I've been blessed with his help to get it started to still be running the business.
So running that business
Mhm.
and then doing your political side, how
Right.
is that working hand in hand? Is it a lot?
Well, city council was part-time.
Okay.
And through my business, we work with a lot of nonprofits, youth organizations, churches. So I get this, I'm immersed with the community already.
Okay.
So it really kind of complements each other.
Okay. And that's really good too,
Mhm.
especially if if it's community based. Now, you are again looking to be reelected, you said, for
Right.
your fourth term. West Akron.
Right.
Because that's where you are.
Yes.
Everything that's going on over there.
Right.
We're talking about the housing, we're talking about crime.
Right.
Tell me what kind of difference you are really looking to make.
Well, I can tell you what kind of difference I've made.
Okay.
And then
let's go with that.
I can tell you what the challenges are.
Okay.
First, when it comes to crime, that's something that we as a community have to take control of. These aren't people from outside of the country coming in and terrorizing our community.
Right.
They're probably in your family, my family, or people that we know, their families. So we got to get our households under control. Our ancestors left us with a strong proverbial message where they said it takes a village, not just to raise a child, but it takes a village to handle everything. So we can't pass the buck. We've got to step up and address these issues that are stemming out of our households that are causing this terror in our community. Now, outside of that, when you talk about housing and these other things, I've presented a plan, and the Beacon has mentioned it, that addresses the foreclosed housing in our neighborhoods. If instituted, it would amount to a $100 million impact to our city overall over a 5 to 7 year period. So, happy to go into more detail with anyone on that, but that plan has been shared with the Akron Canton Real Estate Investment Association, which I happen to be a member of.
Okay. And you said so you're saying that it's working in you guys' favor.
No. If you notice on my card,
Okay.
about when I first got in office, towards the end of my first term, end of my second term, excuse me.
Okay.
I worked with the planning director at that time, who was John Moore, and his staff, and we worked with Mount Olive Baptist Church. There were 2 homes in that neighborhood that were scheduled to be torn down. Instead of tearing them down, I said, let's work with the church and see if they have families that want to be homeowners. We partnered with Mr. Seed. They took the families through an orientation process about what it meant to be a homeowner, to make sure that they had the finances and everything.
Okay.
The city worked with them to restore the homes, and then the families got the homes at a discounted rate, with the understanding that they were going to move into the community, become a part of the block club, send their children to the school right across the street. This foreclosed property and abandoned homes is something that can easily be addressed by the community. That's something that we have direct control over if we get the cooperation of the present administration and their staff.
Okay. And that's what you're expecting, though.
Exactly.
To happen. Now, let me ask you this, though, because I was thinking the Acme, real quick, that was over there
Right.
by New Seasons.
Right.
And you have, elderly people that lives
Right.
in that building, and that Acme was convenient for
Correct.
them.
Correct.
So how did you feel when that happened? They closed, and
Mhm.
people were feeling like, well, where are they going to go? I know there's a Save-A-Lot there on Copley Road, but it was so convenient for that neighborhood,
right.
And it's like, now where they go. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, again, thanks to Henry Johnson and his family, because, people talk about, well, what are you going to do about Copley Road? What are you going to do about this? Well, when you look at any business district, behind that business is a person that takes that financial risk to invest in that community. Let's look at Mustard Seed. They sought all over the country for somebody to put a grocery store, but it was Phil Neighbors and his family that live a stone's throw from that building that put everything on the line and put that business there. Now it's on the community to support that business, because we know now Whole Foods is coming into the neighborhood. You asked me about Henry Johnson. Henry Johnson, I was at some of the planning meetings when Bob Deichman, Kim McClintock, and some of those folks were around the table along with the people from the city. And everybody was talking about what needed to be done. And I can remember making a statement because I was in business. The statement was this: everybody's talking about what needs to be done, but the only person with risk is Henry Johnson. Mm-hmm. Now, Henry risked everything, put it up. The city supported him, but you know who failed? The community. Yeah. We didn't do our part. Okay. So.
And you mean as far as continuing to purchase
supporting?
Support,
yeah. I mean, because we're talking about September 8th, people voting. But the most important vote is where you vote every day by where you spend your dollar.
Yes.
Do you spend your dollar with people that reinvest into your community? Do you spend your dollar with people who live in your community? Do you spend your dollar with people who support your community? So, I mean, we can have all this conversation, but until we really become conscious and understand that economics is key and are willing to make the sacrifice, not try to see where I could get the latest hookup or the best deal, and understand that ultimately what you're doing is cutting the legs underneath your own community because you're not investing in it.
Yes. And you're right, because even like you said, it's not even just West Akron, it's everywhere in Akron. We have to continue to support one another, and that's like one of the biggest things that I do look at as well, is the support system. Let's continue to support one another. Now, it's your fourth term.
Right.
Tell me what is going to be so different than your last three. What are you bringing to the table this time?
Well, I'm not going to say so different. Again, if folks have been engaged in the movement. Okay. One thing, if you know about Ward 4, I speak about transparent and inclusive leadership. Was blessed to have an initiative called Project Ujima, which talks about collective work and responsibility. And it's about people being engaged, deliberative democracy, people being engaged in the process, not waiting for somebody to do something for you, understanding that you have a responsibility to be a part of the solution. Okay? Yes. I mean, like we mentioned, going back to this economic thing, go up to North Hill. We have immigrants who have just set foot in this city, and you will see a store that represents every nationality. And that community supports it because that was a need. Now, what do we need in our community? Whatever we need, first thing we have to do, we have to come together collectively and talk about, prioritize what's important to us. And then we have to understand that I have a responsibility and you have a responsibility, and collectively, what are we willing to do to make that change? So when you ask me, like, health is a big issue. We talk
very big issue.
Mm-hmm, we talk about infant mortality. We talk about lupus and MS. Working with Project Ujima, they worked and took an idea that I shared with them with Suma Hospital, and we created wellness circles. And during the summer, you could go out to the parks and you would see people doing Tai Chi, yoga, Zumba, just walking. And with that, they would get information about health. That's just one small collective. Working with the residents from the wood area, what they call the woods, Hillwood, Fernwood, Beechwood.
Okay. Over there off of Copley Road.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. We help write policy that address the street memorials that were in our community. Before I got on council, there was a memorial that had been on Copley Road where a young girl was killed in a car accident. Okay. People had forgot about that and started even putting a stigma that a violent act, somebody was shot or killed there. But that memorial sat there for almost 5 years.
Really?
And nobody knew what to do. We got with the community, we shaped a policy, we took it down to the city, and that changed. Now they have a way of addressing. You'll still see street memorials, but they don't last. The city contacts the family, gives us condolences, and after 30 days, they remove it. So, I mean, you asked me about what do I want to see. It's about the community. I have a saying that folks that come to the ward meetings, which are the first Tuesday of every month, they know about. And that saying is this: our community is a direct reflection of our collective concern for one another. So how your concerns, my concerns, and then how we act on them is a reflection of what we really feel about our community. So if there's something that people want to see change, the first thing you got to do is come to the table and share it with those of us that are at the table so we can act on it. Then if we don't act on it, then there's something, that needs to be done.
Right, and you know what? And that's so funny that you said that, because people they expect this change, but they're not trying to, again, support.
Right.
Everybody has their opinions
Right.
about what should be changed, but they're not doing anything to help out.
Right.
So you feel like it's getting better, and the kids are our future. When you said earlier that it takes a village to raise a child, and it goes beyond that,
Right.
and I totally agree with that. So we're voting now. What would be the actual change that you want to see, just individually? What is it that you want to see?
Let me explain the present climate here in this city. We had a major flagship program called UPA.
Okay.
It was touted by the administration as one of its flagship programs, and it failed. The Beacon Journal did an article on that program and why it failed. On that board, it had some of the elite from our community. The president of Children's Hospital, Summa Hospital, Akron General, University of Akron, all the school board, all the top flight people in our community were on that board.
Okay.
And that program failed. And that when they did an independent, someone from outside our community came in and did research on it, they asked folks, they said, we want to speak with anonymity. We don't want our names told. But really, the climate in this city is not conducive to collaboration, because the administration, at that time our present mayor, was such a strong mayor. If it didn't go his way, it wasn't going to go.
Okay.
The city ended up spending millions to invest in it, and then we spent like $600,000 this past year to get out of some legal trouble because of that. So that right there was something that hampered our community. The Akron City Council voted to purchase, we all know about the East Akron Community House.
Right.
That building was appraised at $1.5 million. The city could have purchased it for $338,000. But because of politics, we didn't purchase it. So now the Embassy had to pay almost $700,000 for it, and the city's footing the loan.
Wow.
Okay? So the point I'm trying to get to is that the present administration does not work collaboratively with the community and its leadership. The first thing we have to do is on September 8th, vote for a mayor that has a relationship with our community, not somebody that just now came in and wants to serve. And it's no secret, I support Mike Williams.
Okay.
28 years he's been in this community. And I tell Mike, let's get it right. Mike isn't a savior. What Mike is, he's a person who understands that it takes the community, and he's accountable to the community. He has to work with the community, and that's what's needed. So that's the first thing. The next thing you have to understand is you have to elect a city council that is going to hold the administration accountable. Now, for a long time, you had a city council that whatever the administration brought, that's what they approved.
Okay.
It's been public that there has been what I call growing pains down there, because the administration doesn't get their way any longer, because the city council is doing their job. And I'm going to give you another example. We see what's happening with the University of Akron.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
If you read the paper, what people are asking for, because President Scarborough has only been here, he got here at the beginning of this year. Those folks are saying, wait a minute. All this stuff was done before he got here. They're calling for that board. And that board would be equal to what we call city council to be removed, because it didn't do its job providing the checks and balances.
Okay.
So when you ask me what, people have to look at who has been standing up in this community to protect the interests of this community and make sure we do the best with the resources we have.
Okay. And you feel like Mike is going to do the job?
Mike is going to do that. I know my record is plain and clear. I was an activist and involved with this community before I got on council, and since I've been down there, I've been accountable and transparent with my constituents in Ward 4 and across the city. sharing how I vote, why I vote, and what stances I take.
Right. You sound like you got it together. I need you to look right here in this camera.
Okay.
And let them know exactly when voting day is, and let them know why they should vote for you.
Okay. Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for this opportunity, this privilege. But I also want to say thank you to the constituents of Ward 4 for being able to represent you. And it's been my privilege and honor. And I ask for your vote on September 8th so I continue to represent you down at City Hall. We're poised for great things, and I want to help us get there. Thank you very much.
Russell, thank you so much. And this is Cheryl Elisa for Urban Akron and Russell Neal Jr.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.